All right, it looks like things are working finally. Swapping over to my live channel. This is our first stream. Very exciting. And I'm excited to start work on looking for some optimizations for Space Aces. We've already done some work when it comes to thinking about updating to 1.21. We've got that pretty much running. There's still a few minor quirks, but right now the game is very public. But we will have to continue to work with that. But anyways, today we are looking at optimization for Space Aces. And really, that kind of boils down to a few main things. A lot of it is I've gotten better. I've gotten better at programming. I know what not to do a lot more, which is funny how programming works. It's easy. It's a lot easier to do what you're not supposed to do than to do what you're not supposed to. Quieter. So there, and then the second thing is really that doing things has gotten better. There's a lot more tools, a lot more things we can work with, and a lot more we can do in terms of complexity. Like we dropped a handful of frames. Okay, I think we're back. Really, there's a lot more we can do in terms of complexity and especially with tools at our disposal, different new commands and functions abilities. A lot we can do. Uh, and so we're going to be poking around in the data pack for Space Ace. That's kind of uh, where we're going to be focusing mostly today. Looking at what's wrong. We're not going to be doing much. We're just making things, making a list. And we're also, if we get a chance, we're going to look at the snapshot. I haven't looked at it yet, and I saw there's maybe a couple things from thumbnails of YouTube videos and whatnot. But I guess to get started, let's go ahead and jump. I know I'm not moving around. I'm typing in 10 places. I'm not very good. Jump to, let me see, what can I do here? This way of doing it, which really wants to be on my main screen. OBS. So here we are in Visual Studio Code, which is really nice for making sure that things are working. I really like Visual Studio Code with all plugins and whatnot. That makes it nice. But so right now, the data pack is split up in these things. These are from Dominex's is uh, easy command updater, right? EMU. So these recreate old map functionalities, which really some of them are not necessary for this map specifically. And Smiley's here. Thanks for joining, Smiley. Things are going to be a little bit boring today. We're just poking around and figuring out how to get things working. But a lot of what the command helper data pack is sign, because I do a lot of signs. That's before I realized that. What, what is that? If we go to, and right now I'm having an issue. The pack format is just not updating for whatever reason. Really annoying. You like this type? Good listen while at work. Nice. Stopping by and just podcasting it. But so we're going to be poking around. We're going to ignore command helper. Archives. So the archives are, if we go back to Minecraft, let's go actually look at what they archives. That is this here. And so originally I was like, man, I really think it's stupid how in some games you have characters that are supposed to be fighting each other, but then you play the classes and you see the same character on both sides, and that's just kind of stupid. In hindsight, that makes sense because it's a whole lot easier to do that way than to make double the amount of characters. And we're going to be kind of transitioning back to that because a lot of these characters are very not very well made. For example, Holly Wales or Holly Wales, who's born on Eris, kind of like an Earth, heavily protected household. She was a speed, ran. Like what is this garbage? No one cares about this. We got to make it like actually fun. I mean, some people actually read. So every character has this. I think for this, I think we can ignore these. I don't think there's anything, and these are just all the characters, 30 characters, because there's 15 classes, 2 per class. Good side character, bad side character. I think we can ignore. I don't think there's much going on here. And then we look at Arena, which I don't know if I can showcase that very easily. But Arena is mostly structure files where, let's see here. Moonbase is like the very first map. So there's Moonbase 0, 0, 0, and 1, 0, 0. What's interesting about the way these are formatted is it's basically coordinates, but they're big chunks. So we see with maps like Snowball, X1 and then Z1, or X1 and 0. So they kind of like piece together as like a slightly bigger sorry. I'm trying to get the music perfectly balanced, and it's impossible because I'm at like, but I'm fighting between like 1% and like 2%. And 1% I can't hear it. 2% it's too loud. Anyways, they're basically set up as coordinates, which are cool. I'm gonna keep doing it that way because it's just easy. It makes sense. You just name it by map. I might give the maps IDs just so, but even then, it's not that big of a deal. When you're finding them later, it's actually nicer to have it by name. But then we see all of these loads. Become spectator. Nobody cares. That's fine. We don't have to do this anymore. Go back to Minecraft. I'll run these commands. I'll just do it out here so I can creative or admin mode. Change the name. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. So the block where I'm looking right here. So it sets the structure block. Great. And then it runs this command. Change, of course. Try again. So it sets it to the aqua base. And if I turn on the bounding box, go for some reason. Is that a bug? Maybe I deleted that. No, I don't think you can. I guess, whatever. And then it sets a block of redstone on this to trigger it. And then it deletes the block, this, and the redstone, both. Well, now what we can do is grab this, copy that. We can just do place structure feature. Oh, template. And we just paste it. Press enter. You flood out the flood out the thing. But see how easy that is compared to what we were doing before. Very nice. Very powerful. This is like one of the worst. Like the... How do I... Yeah, sure, that works. Should be enough. And there will be, yeah, these item frames. Which, the item frames are actually places for the player to load. It's actually pretty interesting. They did that perfect. Perfect. Funny how set block updates. I can just do a quick little tick sprint. Rid of the water. Seconds of sprinting. So, we can write that down. We can replace 4 commands with 1. Now, do they make that big of a difference? No. Does it matter? I think so. It's a lot easier to follow as a program. Also, close out of that. So that's the first thing we can write down, and I've got a list. Actually, let's do that in back to our coding. Put it in here. We would call this update. Maybe just updates. Oh wait, we need to make that. We make it. Actually, maybe a markdown. Markdown's just a better formatted. So this would be version 3.3. And all it would be is bigger for you. Version 3.3 would be updated arena place template. And what's nice about that is, again, like I said, converts these 4 commands in 1. And you don't have to worry about specifically these, which is annoying. Setting the block. There's a bug for a while where the block wouldn't be updated. So that's good. We also have this function, which actually replaces the whole map with barriers. And so if we look how it works, game mode, numbers. So numbers is a scoreboard objective. If it is 0, which is duel, it says, okay, let's load duel. Okay, and then based on the map, it picks which map it's running. So we can reformat this later down the road, but for now it actually still works great. And these are kind of goofy. I'm gonna change that though. This actually works. I'm gonna say no. The reason I do these, so that floating potato item frame, if we look here, like why do that? Well, actually what it is a weak health pack. And the reason it's just a potato is when you're building the map, you just place down a potato in an item frame, and then this, when the map loads, takes care of it. It says, hey, I know what you meant by this. I'm going to turn that into a item so that, or a specific health pack or blue spawns or capture point or general spawn if it's like a team deathmatch game mode, or, you know, health pack up here. And then visually it'll update, look nice. And then the back end, nice. Plus you don't have to worry about it disappearing. Like as a marker, it's kind of hard to see. I do want to eventually build that. What's that performance thing? It doesn't like. I guess that rates you on your performance. So there's ways to make things. That's funny. So it looks like this is pretty good to go. We will have to eventually consider changing these. These are still fine. And let's look real quick at the helper phone. So that just changes sign. Yeah, to become a spectator. Okay. I think that's fine. So we'll consider arena done. Which really is not too bad. Close that. There we go. Classes. So the classes is going to be kind of a little bit more of a strange, like what's going on type of thing, because they're so different. And let's actually run through the classes real, because I feel like a lot of people don't know what Space Aces is. They can watch it later. If not, that's okay. Adventure mode. So you've got Scout. He's just very fast. He can sprint. He has a double jump. Or I guess you can jump and then it's a launch, so it have to be a double jump. So you can zoom around the map quite a bit and make things work. That's pretty simple. And basically the lower health he is, the faster he runs too. Oh. Not even in Minecraft. There we go. Soldier has blaster. This is the passive. The third option is a passive. He has a heal, normal blaster, very standard blaster. Sniper, which doesn't really work anymore because of just the way he kind of works. Most people are going to set their zoom. Accessibility. They're going to set this to like off most of the time, but if you set it to 30, then you really feel the zoom. So that's going to be something we're going to have to think about. Like, how can we make that setting? How can we make that better? Because I like to feel it, but I don't like it to be. So basically, each class is slightly different in how they function. Some of them have deployables even. The bomber has sticky bombs that they can launch everywhere, and they're just kind of fun. They can do like bomb jumping and whatnot with the. They have mobility, which is a simple teleport. Flash bomb. Infiltrators, cloak. Visible. Seeker's like a shotgun that shoots fast type of guy. Gunner just has like infinite ammo, it feels like. Big heal that he can do. Brawler's actually a melee guy. Sword throw. It's kind of fun. Does piercing damage. It's like the only thing in the game that I think has no limit. It's kind of very much built on that. This needs to be changed. It's just and there's Mechanic who has a turret. Pyro that has a firebomb. Rocketeers, rockets, rocket jump. I really like Pyro for that. Or Rocketeer. Healer that has healing. Scientist has chemicals he sprays out. And then finally Shocksmith, who has the shock hopper, which is like, I don't know, big golden. Anyways, that's the classes. We go back to our coding though. Maybe we can just poke around at some of the classes, how they work. I actually have these as JSON files, which I use my generator for. I'm gonna get rid of that. That's no good. Nobody doesn't really need to be generated. It was a nice idea and concept, having things be automatically generated, but it turns out that I can just inheritance functions and anything that needs to be repeated, I can just repeat it in a better way than and a lot of the class stuff. So like let's just look at maybe Soldier, for example. He has a function called shoot where he spawns a particle effect or a area effect cloud, and then depending on which team he's on, it's either blue or red. And then depending on if he has luck, which is actually damage boost, that multiplies his damage. If he is crouching, it changes this, which actually we need to change this completely because you can anchor to eyes, which you could have before, but I just... So let's write that down, actually. That down. Update. I'm going to go ahead. Shots to eyes. And we're going to see why that's actually beneficial later. It'll work better than this. Actually, it optimizes this for every class, first of all, which is important. After he shoots, he spawns the thing. Damage multiplier gets collected. Grabs a scoreboard for the player. And what that does is, if the player with his ID, he can set it to the projectile so it knows that is there damage assigned, the player did it. So add the score, damaging the player, whatnot. Very interesting stuff. Here we can see the damage multiplier, how that works. Actually, we can. This looks very much like just scoreboard math. You can't really change that. The generator, see all this stuff here is the damage. Okay, simple. With damage, that's just how much damage it does, right? And then there's fall off, which fall off is how much damage goes down at a time. So, and the way fall off works is every block it goes, it applies the fall off. But that's after the fall off start. So, at 40 blocks away, then it goes from 12 to 11. Then the next block, 10, 9, 8, 7, and it goes down to 0. One thing I would like to add, and I don't know if we're going to do this as a new feature because it is kind of a new feature. It is kind of like maybe modifying current features, just making them better, is actually a floor. So what do I mean is instead of doing between 12 and 0 damage, we actually do 12 and 6. So like after a certain amount, this is the minimum it goes, and then it ignores all of the calculating for the rest of the stuff. The only problem with that is if you shoot up into the air and like somehow it glitches through, goes through the corner of a block, and then you can go out. outside of the lobby for like, I don't know, infinite blocks. That's just an option. So I'm going to write that down. So floor to damage fall off. And that can actually apply to everything. Every class, I mean. Well, along with that is the projectile spread, which is actually maybe the worst and least functional thing. But it does work really well. So, like, we'll have to figure out a way to make this better. So, go back to Minecraft. If we look at just a white, and if I hold right click, you notice how there's just a little bit of spread. It's not exactly in the same dot, as opposed to on like Scout. I think Scout has 0 spread. Maybe not. Sniper, I don't think does. The particles are always going to be kind of spawning in the same exact spot. They move a little bit, so that makes it kind of hard. But that's just something to look out for. But Gunner has like a lot of spread. So if I stand out here, we can see how wide and all over the place it is. It's kind of like a little circle that it does. So the problem with that functionality is it's just programmed very poor. And the reason that's such a problem is it's not that big of a deal when you're shooting like one shot. But if we open up, let's see, is it Alt F3? How do I show the, I think it used to be Alt, but I can't see it. Probably part of mid. I don't think I have mini HUD. Okay, we'll just do a tick query. So that's the TPS. And what we really want to look at is like P99 is the 1% worst ticks per second in the game. So it's like 11, 10, 14. That's going to jump around quite a bit. And the average is like 6. But if I do something like that, that boosted up the average quite a bit. But when you shoot, or like this guy, where you have several projectiles all doing that at the same time, it can cause a problem. It looks really cool, like having a shotgun. Very nice. So if we look at why this is so laggy, why this is causing problems, it'll make a lot of sense when you think about how it's a problem. So first of all, we go back to projectile. I believe I'll spray. Okay, so numbers of the score of the entity, which is a little confusing anyways. Right here is the projectile spread. It's specifically that entity's numbers score, which numbers shouldn't really be used for that, but at least I can follow it to some extent. So this should be named spread. Actually, let's write that down. The reason it's good to put like everything projectile based into its own scoreboard is you can reset those scores at the end of a game, and it just prevents entities from accidentally being assigned a score after the end of the game and then that piling up. I've had worlds that are practically unplayable from the scoreboard file being too big because they're not properly deleted. I think that bug's fixed, but it's just a nice cleanliness thing. But if we look at that, if the score of numbers is 1 or more, so here it's being set to 1, we're going to pick a random I, which is just a random scoreboard thing. there's 4 entities with a tag positioner like this, and they have different scores of I. So we're going to set that I to one of the random ones, so 1, 2, 3, or 4. And based on that, teleport it just a little bit. So the problem is that that's recursive. So let's say the I is, and we can actually jump to a different class. So we go over here to, I think Gunner is, shoot, no, it's projectile. So its I is 3, or its spread is 3. And you'll have to kind of follow along with what I'm saying rather than what you're seeing, because poorly worded, but I digress. The spread is 3, right? So if we go back to spread, which I 3, remove 1, so there's still 2, and then it teleports randomly. Okay, great. And then when it teleports randomly, run this again. Okay, so it moved a little bit. Try again. Runs the same command, recursive, and teleport again, and then teleport again. So the problem is ultimately that instead of teleporting once to get the spread, it can teleport 3 times. And when you look at, I think Seek has the most spells. Could be wrong. So he has a spread of 10, right? So it gets teleported 10 times. 10 times, but there's also several projectiles, and that can cause problems. Right now, Amy, as we're working on looking at kind of some of the flaws of the programming of Space Aces. There's some problems, and everything works great. Don't get me wrong. The map is functional, but there's some things that are just so poorly optimized, like, we can do this better. And one of those things that we're just talking about is projectile spread. So based on the spread number, how much you want it to spread, this function is recursive. So instead of spreading like up to half a block over, it spreads just a little bit 10 times. And because it's random, it picks a little bit, and it ends up kind of fighting itself. It's interesting how it's worked this long and not really caused any problems, but part of that is because honestly teleporting is like, and it's actually not teleporting, it's just executing facing. So it's saying like, I'm actually looking over here a little bit. Yeah, also the random number is this was before we had random, and that this will also help. But I'm going to also look into maybe a way to do this without being recursive. Like, can we just say, I want a range of 10, maybe 10 pixels left or right of maybe 10 blocks out, up to 10 blocks or 10 pixels over. How does that work? So that's just something we'll look into. But yeah, you're definitely like right, Flamingo, where sorting by random is pretty bad. And it's like not that big of a deal. Like the game runs fine, but when you're doing this 10 people shoot at once, then that's when it's like, okay, what's going on? You have tons of commands running, and again, all of these are being ran, and a bunch of addresses with like really weird, long, crazy selectors finally running Bray at the end. So yeah, random values, very good. So we'll do, and we can, I don't think a macro would be good here. Honestly, this might be better than a macro, but we'll just look at performance later in in the actual video. Right now we're just finding things like what are we doing wrong on it? Just redo that entirely. Yeah, I was just looking at that flamingo actually. This should be, yeah, right there. I wish it was maybe just a little bit more, like the emojis are funny, but maybe like say like, okay, good. You can't do any better than add s, right? But if we look at red function, like, what is this saying? Yeah, I think that's really bad. Because I'm not doing, I don't really know what chunk limited. Does dimension limited actually help? I didn't even know if you specified a dimension actually matters. But that is a very useful feature. Yeah, you can't, yeah, again, you can't do any. I wonder what it says here. Yeah, it just, any add s is like, okay, you're perfect. Oh, really? Okay. Yeah, I know type helps a lot, but I didn't know. Okay. Type is good. Now, what is chunk limited? Like, what would an example of that? Because that like a radius or like that. I don't know why, but uh, what that refers to is not coming to my brain. But the type limited for those that are just listening is like type equals Minecraft armor stand. So like it'll only find armor stands. It's gonna ignore everything else. Okay, that makes sense. So it is like a distance or a radius type of thing. Could you do it like really big? Like if it's like radius of 500, would that be better than nothing? Let me see. Well, hey, watch this. Does it not like that? So it did kind of like that. But am I just tricking the tag? I feel like that's not as beneficial. Interesting. I guess that also makes it dimension limited, right? If I do redo that. It does. Okay. That makes sense. Yeah, small radius is definitely I didn't realize how much radius helped. That shouldn't matter most of the time because like once you find the entity, I guess if you have an entity with like a sub entity that's part of it, just doing like a radius of like 3. Finding the first entity the first time is the most important thing. And you can type limit that, and that helps a lot. Anyways, we'll go to the projectile ray function. Yeah, should only be ran by entities used as a raycast because this will kill you. Type that in. You'll just teleport forward and die, which is funny, but maybe not good. I didn't know that. Although square root is like we think of it as being kind of a heavy function, but like for a computer, like the back end of stuff, I guess it's a lot less than than like a Minecraft like doing it for us in terms of data packs. So there's a lot going on here. We're updating accuracy, which I'm not sure what that does. I can't remember. Then we teleport ourselves or the entity, the raycast, to the location. We remove J by 1, which is I believe the fall off distance start. So if your fall off is 20 blocks away, that starts at 20, then it subtracts 1. I guess it's maybe not blocks. Anyways, every full block it goes, which is every 16 I iterations. This is kind of confusing, but most raycasting is not the easiest to understand once you get into the details. But there's a sub-ray, which is you subtract the fall off. Great. I guess fall off is its own thing. Okay. I don't know what J is. And then it spawns a particle, which this we're actually going to remove once we do part of the visual overhaul. So that'll be exciting. But really nothing here is doing anything. All add as, nothing to improve right there. The validate position. And so what this does is, okay, are you in a ignore all block? Add continue. So ignore all is, if you're shooting through air, you don't need to do anything fancy. If we go back to Minecraft, I'll give an example. Let me just scout. One of the things that made Space Aces like kind of good is like the raycasting engine, because I spent a lot of time doing that. I used to use snowballs, which were basically perfect anyways, but like when you're shooting through a window, you want it to work, right? So full block, yeah, that's gonna work because it's air. But what about, actually sandstone wall will probably block it. What about a slab? And ignore this UI, I don't know what's going on. Well, we want that to work too. So if we see, shoot against the white so you can see, it's shooting through the wall. And if you crouch, same thing. You're shooting right through the wall. Yeah, the raycast code actually is not that bad. The main thing that's we're going to be changing probably is converting it from a 16 pixel or 1/16 of a block move, 1/16 step, to a 1/8 block step. So instead of moving like pixel perfect, it'll be a little bit chunkier. For most cases, that's going to be perfectly fine. Because you think about this, we don't need to measure every single pixel here. That's a little over the top. But for like a wall, this is where it gets a little bit trickier because you're shooting and you're very close to colliding with stuff like that. And the fact that all this works actually is insane to me still. Like, this shouldn't work still, but it does. So, if we go back to the coding, these are all just completely ignored. These are treated like air. We go back, passable. So, stairs, ignore all, slabs, doors, leaves, trapdoors, walls, fences, scaffolding. No, these are all treated differently. The hardest ones are honestly doors, and trapdoors are kind of annoying. Walls are kind of annoying. Some of these are like scaffolding. It's like basically the same block every time. Yeah, it's very precise. It's overkill. It doesn't need to be like that. I was looking just to get some ideas on ways to improve the raycasting. And I looked at an old Cloud Wolf video that I'd commented on. I remember commenting on it because I made an even older raycasting video. And I was like, hey, I did my steps in 16. And he was like, he didn't say this, but like basically from the tone of his comment, he's like, you're kind of an idiot. And I'm like, I know, but that's just what I did. It was just really funny. So if you can find that, dig that comment chain up, I'm like, I'm just telling you what I did. I'm not saying it's what you should do. Because he converted it to decimal, which I thought was not what I would want to do, because I just count the pixels, but to each their own. It's just a different way. Anyways, uh, it runs the projectile check function, which is a little bit sloppy. It's like, okay, why are we checking if we could check? Really, what should happen is we do a return if the execute if the player has a continue tag return. But yeah, see all of these run. Same with it. He just did it in I think eighth block steps for what he was working. It was just funny. I don't know. So the projectile step, this is really cool. You can kind of format these. Daylight detector works the same as the slabs and beds. Is it actually the same? No. It's going to be off by a pixel, but I didn't want to at a certain point. I wanted to kind of like line of sight check, super cheap. Are you talking about the looking at the predicate or tag? Because that was really nice. The looking at. I haven't used it in a long time though. Basically, there's a tag where, let me see, if you go, and I don't know, this isn't probably not even what you're talking about. Break all this. If you do, you just spawn an armadillo. He's slow enough. You see the looking at or targeted entity armadillo. What did I hit there? Was I? Wait, am I hitting him? I don't know. Oh, okay. You can use that for kind of, but you're dealing with only the accuracy of the hitbox. So that's the reason I don't use it, is because I want headshots and like it's kind of hard to detect. You're gonna have to run a detection anyway, so it's like, Sorry, armadillo. I'm curious though, how are you doing that, Flamingo? I'll let you type that up while we. So one thing we're gonna probably do is convert. First of all, I guess let's change 16th steps, because there's no benefit to being, and that'll double the performance. What's the range on targeted entity? I think it actually is pretty far, and I think with the whatchamacallit range, it's actually really far. I don't understand. Looking at it, I don't think that's working. There's a way to do that though. Pretty sure there's. Let me see real quick if I can find. What? Attacker for what? That's not what I. What? Targeted entity. Armors. Let me see if I can add this predicate real quick. We could just because if we can, then maybe it'll be something that have a. This map was made before, which is stupid. New file. Armor. It just doesn't work at all. What? Uh, maybe not. Okay, well, I'll play around with it. Oh, of course I'm tab anyway. Oh yeah, line of sight is raycast at the position of entity A, but executed as E. That could work. Yeah, that's very good for like maybe like a larger scope of game in terms of you're shooting like big projectiles or something like a rocket launch, where it's well not rocket launch, travel of the projectile. I'm trying to think of that is useful though. Stuff like that, very useful. What am I doing wrong? It, these are two different targets. Oh wait, that's actually funny. I'll play around with that more later. But that is something that works. Uh, it's close to this, but I don't know how to make it work. I know I've used it, and it works. Honestly, with the scaling of things, you could actually make it work too. Yeah, why that's not. Yeah, my we'll get to that in just a second. Now and seeing if this is. Why does that not work? I didn't change anything. I guess I'm insane. Anyways, uh, yeah. So that's where we at. So it checks for all of this stuff. Like, is it hitting an object like a physical block? Does block stuff first because that's much more easy to do. It's mostly scoreboard math. Uh, which you can do saying like, okay, are you on the top half? Get the Y position. Is it 8, 7? Okay, it's good to go. And you only get this if you need it, which is nice. But if we go back to Ray, yep, validate position. So what this does is it tries to find an entity, and this is probably where most of the performance comes from. This actually says the performance is good, but debatable. Um, and yeah, it says like, is there something one block below the projectile? Because most of the things are going to be about head level. That's like kind of the general sphere of the entity. Within a 2 block distance, okay, if there is it the player itself? Because when you shoot, it's going to find yourself for like the first little bit. Or maybe you're shooting like something that you own. Like if it's a turret, you don't want to shoot your own turret. Or like you don't even want your turret to block projectiles, right? You don't want that to count at all. You want it to just phase right through it. And then positioning it back up to like where the projectiles back out. And then we do the hitbox. And so depending on what entity it is, if it's a hitbox of a creeper, hitbox of a crouched player, hitbox of a mine or mine runner, which those are probably the same. Oh wait, no, one of those. Then there's a turret hitbox, and based on all of these, we can see there's actually a double damage area as well as a normal damage. And you see these very like kind of specific numbers. And these distances I actually made a long time ago. Where it's at. There was a generator that turned the hitboxes. You 3D modeled what you wanted. Every pixel is like 1-to-1. And that became the entity that it used the hitbox. It generated a hitbox for that. I think I might have just deleted it as like I generated what I needed. It needed it, which is this is very unoptimal. So let's look at we're lowering the steps, and we're also going to hitbox optimization. And while we're at it, we can actually make it to once we enter a different type of block, then we say set a tag and say, okay, the projectile is in a slab until we change blocks entirely. So that'll be another scoreboard thing that we save to the entity, but that'll save steps in checking later. So what do I mean? I don't know if that makes sense. Back to Minecraft, maybe I can explain it a little bit better. But I actually, you know what I should do? I'm gonna open up Paint. I'm gonna pull a add a yeah, the hitboxes because they are very accurate. That's part of both the solution and the problem. Which is maybe not the word. Window capture of Paint. Oh, okay. Paints. Miss Paint. Oh, what am I doing? Why does it look so weird? Okay, I guess you can't capture in Paint. Unless I go full screen. Why is it just... It's so funny. It's captured in my mouse. Oh, maybe if I do 10. Oh, there we go. Okay. Yeah, that's actually exactly what we can do. So, I'll write that down real quick. Good idea. Good idea. That's kind of what's happening, but it's saying like, is there anything in the radius every tick? And then like after that, it's like, okay, maybe find something, then see like what it is. But that's still less than but what I was thinking for the, what is it? Thinking. Oh, so you've got your grid of blocks. Excuse my or drawing skills. Let's say this is, for the sake of argument, this is a grass stair because that it's added some update. And then this is slab. So you're shooting a bullet from maybe here. I don't know why that here. Actually, I'll make it red. So you're shooting, and then once you hit this block, these were both air, so it's saying like, okay, just ignore what's going on. Once you hit this block, the projectile gets a tag of in stair. And so we only run the stair check until we hit the next block over, which is air here in this case. And so it'll say, okay, well, we're not going to check for anything until we change blocks. And we can do that based on like the main level like data get XYZ. So whenever XYZ changes, then we could do that. And that might be better than checking all of these blocks. I don't know. I'm not sure. It's going to be something we have to test. So then this one's slabs, and then for the sake of illustration, we'll say like stops here because that's maybe that's good, maybe it's actually terrible. But it's just an idea. And if I do it in a certain way to where maybe I get the XYZ of the block or of the projectile or the raycast every time, but in 8, stored in 8s, then I can use those numbers for these anyways, for this here, and then just divide them by 8 for this operation, like when you change blocks. That's just an idea. It's probably a terrible idea. Maybe? It's so tiny. But yeah, that's a good idea. The thing is, you still have to check like where it is in the block each tick, which is unfortunate. And I'm sure there's math you could do to where like if the angle of it is a certain way, then you don't have to check. But at a certain point, anything with angles, when you're dealing with angles and it's not just like a simple raycast, it's going to be more performance, or it's going to cost more performance to do like rig functions and whatnot. It's just not worth it. It's easier to brute force a lot of this stuff, which is kind of funny, but less than ideal. Okay, I think other than that, the damage multiplier is stupid. But how do we do that? Yeah. Because we're stepping every 8th block, I think it's not going to be worth it. If it was every 16th, it might be, but I just want to try it. I looked up voxel traversal, and that's actually in my notes for working on the map in my notebook. And then I realized, like, oh, this is actually worse than what we're trying to do, like performance-wise. It's easier to just brute force it. This is not. This is for damage multiplier. Okay, Flamingo, quick question. Or anybody else. How do you store a damage multiplier in scoreboard? So you're going to have it's going to act like an effect. Like if it's strength or a damage multiplier of 10% for 5 seconds. Like it's something that you press a button, you get 10, or you have an ability from somebody else that they press a button. How would you do that? Because the way it works right now is it uses effects. It just says like, hey, give the player, I think it's luck that it uses. Luck 10 for 10 seconds or for 5 seconds, then you have a 10% increase. Is that a good idea? I don't know. But store in a global variable. That could work. Or execute. Hand it off. Yeah, that's always good. As much as possible. It's nice. Yeah, that always works. So I apply it to the uh I apply it to the projectile when it lands. So like, but is it when it should it be when it lands or when it's shot? Like if you shoot a rocket and the effect wears out because the rocket's slow moving and then the rocket lands, you get the damage multiplier or do you not get it? Like that's just a gameplay design at the point. Like how and that's a fun question because how should it work? I don't know. Also, this is terrible. Don't. Oh, actually, no. This isn't that bad. I mean, it's bad, but it's not great. Uh, arcing. So let me show this. Yeah, it should be fine. If I become bomber, that's obviously the arc is like what is working. Like that's how you get an arc. Is it like an actually gravity? Like, is it correct? No, but it's good enough. And if we, I didn't even know this was still here. That's there's problems where if you shoot straight up, that's kind of dumb. Like it should actually shoot straight up. When you tilt it, it kind of makes sense. But might help to execute as on your target and make them apply. Yeah. Yep. I believe that is how that works. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's so. If you do damage, maybe not. I store it the damage of the projectile, and then I apply the damage like normally. Let me do just damage. This and keep in mind, like I'm a little bit better at programming. This is terrible. Like this stuff is really bad. Some of it. Like what is this? Probably barfing here. Yeah. Like what? What is this? I think this is so you can't heal your. So yeah, it runs. Is it as? I don't even know. Hit damage or hit healing. So if you are blue and you hit something, and the entity that you hit is blue, then it's a healing hit, and if not, it's a. Yeah. It's amazing, like how easy it is to make bad code and then just sit on it for a long time. Like it's funny. Uh, and the worst part is that it works like really well. Also, this is interesting. Why is this smaller than that? I don't know. Shouldn't matter. Curious. This is just so you can't heal your own turret. I think. Although that's old. I don't know. That's weird because you should be able to damage a turret. But yeah, most of the way damages, it's like, here's the damage you give, you're supposed to have. Run this function. And then he the command. And then I have a hit indicator. I don't know how I feel about this. Hit indicator. Let me hitboxes. Up to Minecraft. This just doesn't look good anymore. Do I spawn? Do I still do a hit indicator? Because it's kind of nice to know how much damage you do. And that's pretty popular anymore. But then have it move up slowly? Do I just get a different font? Because that's also an option. Make it look really nice that way. Give it a lot of style. I don't know. It doesn't help when you're in a dark corner like this. It doesn't even matter, right? I wish there was a way to make stuff like that visible to only yourself. And I know you can with particles. You can make block particles or item particles that are only show to one person. But still, it's like, I don't know. Okay. Down there. Brandon. Projectile. Like, what does this mean? I don't know. I don't know. Yeah. Text displays could be pretty nice there. But like I could also just remove it too. And just have everybody have like a stylized health bar above their head. Because I don't know how much of the game should be that versus should be like kind of. I think a stylized health bar would be better. That'll be an addition or a enhance. We redo that. Okay, so do. This just shows the sound effect. The arc. I don't know if I can do this much better. Like, obviously, it's less than ideal if you're shooting straight up and they arc forward. But at a certain point, you gotta just say, like, errors. And, like, this is fairly performant. Because this arc only runs, like, once per tick. Not once, like, several times per tick. And it's nice because it's stored in a scoreboard. Impact, this is just less than ideal, but it's fine. A spread, subray. I think that's it for the projectile, like, chunk of things, and class is honestly kind of the same. Yeah, health bar might be better. And you can steal the same style, like even the same textures even. So some of these are... I'm not going to touch this stuff, the classes, because I think I'm going to redo some of them. So just leave them. And most of them are just like, give yourself an effect. Do this. The performance is really fine with the... Okay. Enemies, I'm not going to touch these either because they're bad. Like, if we go back to the training range, like, look at this. These are not interesting. They're so boring. They look bad. Got armor on. The only thing they're good at is, like, holding right click on. Yeah. It's just boring. So we're gonna leave all that stuff as is for now because this is also funny. This forces certain entities to just force look at you, teleports them like the ranged bots. They just force look at you, get teleported facing the nearest player, and then they shoot if they can see them. So if like you're in creative and they're not looking at you, they'll just like snap their head for a second and then snap it back. It's so dumb, but kind of fun. Okay. Enemies. Game mode. This I'm not gonna dig through right now. Health is actually like that small. Or I mean really not that big. This I gotta look at attribute fires. Yeah, like this is busted. Running that every tick. That's less than ideal. Update armor. I'm gonna write that down. They close all these. Why is it? Players on fire. Fire tick. That's scoreboard and number. Unluck is poison, I believe. That way you don't get kind of annoying effect. What does this say? So why does performance say that when it's an NBT check? Shouldn't it like negatively score? I'm just curious. Oop. Yeah, that's funny. I think I just dropped the stream for restarting or whatever. But here is you might like this, Fleming. This is my super smart random number. It's bad. It's really bad. Oh no. So there's two entities that have the score RNG edible. There's two of them. And so it says, okay, between the two of them, add 1 to one of them, add 2 to one of them, add 4 to one of them, add 8 to one of them, add 16 to one of them. This is probably the worst way you could do this now. Like this is really bad because of all these AE. Each one of these is you're sweating just a little bit. Could be worse, I guess, but no, these are bad. But it's really funny. And they're area effect clouds. Like that makes it worse because they're not markers. This is before markers. Oh, it's so funny. So funny. This can be replaced with one command now. This one's kind of annoying, but it's a score to XP. Kind of done the same way. This one I don't mind as much. This one might actually be more performant than macros. I don't know. So it gives you 1 XP per, or it splits it up kind of the same way. If you have 1, give yourself 1, and then remove 1. If you have 2, give yourself 2. But it does backwards, of course. So like, I don't know if this is better than just a macro because like how expensive is this versus the macro? I don't know, but maybe that's something we'll look at. Optimization, barf, and then because that's pretty bad. And the randomization is bad because of how much we use it too. Like that's part of why it's so bad. That and macro. I'd probably just leave it. Because like scoreboard, you could do like 1,000 scoreboards, and like that's basically nothing. I know macros are hair performance hungry. I don't even know. Oh, and then this one actually kind of that should just be in every data pack. It probably is. We're close. Tutorial, these are just tell raws. They're not even in function folder for some reason. And then tick. This is gross. This is bad. Barf. At A's are not. A little sweaty because doing back checks and it's just every area effect class. How does it feel? These are all sweaty. Not even. This is rough. I'm gonna put. But with main ticking function, you have to do that. You have to figure out like what is going on. And one thing that happens is like, is it easier to do one at E and then do at S for all of these? Is that better, or is it better to do several at E? In my when I was working on Fox's Life, I ran into doing several at E's was better, and then I realized, oh, it's because one of the at E functions is actually recursively calling every other entity. So it was like squared. It was like for every entity, it ran a command for every entity, which is just a minor typo. A little bit of a problem. And then I enabled that, and I was like, wow, I'm getting like 20 MSPT instead of like 70. So I might play around with that. I might play around. All of this is scoreboard stuff. Nobody cares. Pretty much it. This is probably less than. Yeah, I think that's everything. One generalized Eddie. Yeah, I think that's right. I think that's a correct answer. I'm pretty sure. I think you're right. But I wish it was a little bit easier to do testing for that, because when you reload, it puts it on a different. I don't know if it puts it on a different thread sometimes or what. Because in the past I've did a reload and I could run like twice as many functions, even though without the MSP. I don't know, or it's just boosting it. I don't know. But this gives us a good baseline. We've got something. Well, one thing I've actually wanted to do this stream while we're just doing stuff, having fun. I want to briefly look at the latest snapshot patch notes. And if I do up to window capture. Okay, that's actually what I wanted. A little dangerous. Not that I have a bunch of crazy stuff open, but you never know. Um, 24W36A. Known issues. Oh, that's kind of nice. They tell you like what's broken. Custom equipment with data packs and respects. That sounds very good. Or bundle stuff. That's fine. Yeah, that's good. Thing. Okay, that's kind of nice. The entity versions are pretty nice for the changes for that. It just looks nice. It's very nice. Health of the set to the same percentage. Max health. Interesting. I don't know if I like that. Because you strike a charge creeper with lightning. Okay, so we've got data pack version is now 52. Even though I think only like it feels like only 2 changes have happened since 48, which is they love changing that. Oh, that's okay. That's good. These are all good. I like that. More tags is always good. Item name. Okay, that makes sense. Item model. Controls item model present on every item. So is this like custom model data, but it has to be an existing item? Or can you just say like, I'm referencing this thing that doesn't exist? How does that work? Because I'm sure there's discussion on it. Because if it's just like this, the way this looks, it looks like this is not. It can just reference anything in the resource packs folder. Which at that point, what's the point of custom model data other than backwards compatibility? I think this is better than that system. But yeah, it's a lot better. Yeah. Although with custom model data, you can add something to where it will, with scoreboard, you can like change a data, get it, then you add one or whatever. I don't know. Or item modifiers. Equipable. That's nice. You can put things in different slots with equip sound. You can disable that. That's nice. Model definitions are loaded from, so you can say like, is that like a different view? So like there's the GUI view, item view. Can you say like, this is what it looks like when it's rendered specifically on the chest? How that works? Maybe? That's nice. Allowed entities, so that's kind of interesting. So like maybe certain mobs can apply it. That's not very useful. I mean, it is in some ways. It's very specific though. This is very useful to that one guy. Type. The item type has special dispenser behavior effect. I wish you could put like a play sound command in here to change. You could do a lot of stuff. Okay, glide with elytra. And before, there's 1,000 resource packs and data packs that have custom gliders. This, I don't like this format for everything. Like that's clunky to me. I wish it was just glider equals, but each their own. I know true is more letters, but okay. The tooltip style is very cool, where you can have a custom sprite. I saw that in a thumbnail for a video. So the normal tooltip for something, the like purple border. Is it purple? Purple, right? No, I guess not. It's like a bluish. Maybe it's purple. Frame. You can change that completely, and that's nice. That's super nice. For just slice like that. Oh, so nice. And then here is kind of the biggest. Like this is. Are you pressing forward, backward, or left, or right, or jump, or sprint? And check for that. Other than like doing like dumb ways of checking for that. So maps, this first of all, I think of maps that are like Toy Tank Royale. I think that's your map, isn't it, Flamingo? If not, I'm apologize, but I'm pretty sure that's your map. I know you also had that one that's like Steven's Sausage Roll. What was the name of that one? Forklift Frenzy or something? That might be kind of a generic. Is that right? So Toy Tank Royale and Doze Off. That's it. Both of those are perfect examples for this, where you're modifying. Also, what? No more diamonds. You do. This would help a lot of your maps actually. uh, a lot of your custom control stuff. It's much snappier because the minecart thing works, but it feels slow. And I'm kind of picky with controls. That's just my a million billion times. Yep. Is it minecart? Is it in a minecart and it works that way? I'm pretty sure that's. There's different forms of it too. But this is nice. Very nice. The only thing that's missing is like, why is it these buttons? Why can't it be like any button? Why not? Oh, anything you were writing? That's nice. But yeah, like why can't I, even if it's like has to be assigned, like why not? Come on. Please. Please. I want to be able to press any button and have that an ability as my game. Okay, resource packs, equipment models, that's like the armor, the changing the armor. Of course, textures for entity equipment have been moved. Great. Everybody loves that. A 9 slice stretch enter. Okay. Somebody really knows what that means, and it's not me. Oh, this is awesome. Can they make that that work with just items in general? That's one thing I've always said is like, please just let things break. Then when you repair them, it's less annoying. Even if it breaks and you can't work on it, like you have to manually. You can't like use Ooh, my 3D print finished. Very nice. So ready to watch 100 people make custom movement. Normalize the velocity. Yep, people are going to be moving diagonal twice the speed, or 1.4 times the speed. You gotta love it. Somebody should make a map where it's like you can only move time. Okay, custom equipment models. Same thing. Just gonna ignore all this because I'm sure. Okay, so horse body, that makes sense. Sure. Trims, more. Interesting. That's kind of cool. I wonder if they're in the game or if that's just something they're doing. I'm so glad they're making a lot of the textures for armor specifically be less hard-coded. Got all this stuff, bug fixes. I'm just gonna ignore them because why not? Oh, the Minecraft movie. Don't. Just don't. Anyways, just oh, there it goes. I think that was a pretty successful stream. I've got a list of places to go to, places to kind of focus on fixing, optimizing mostly, and that'll be a big step in doing what we need to do for Space Aces. Very cool stuff. Appreciated everybody not only coming to visit on the stream today, but also like coming to Lego Bro Live. I know it's a little bit more out of the way, but it's been nice seeing like most of the usual crowds here today, which is a good thing. Flamingo and Smell, even Emmy, all pop it in for at least a little bit, and that just makes it fun for everybody. We can chat and talk about maps and new updates and how poorly we program stuff. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next. Bye, Flamingo, and bye, Valley.